Good morning, everyone. Here we are, December 7th, and time for Christmas traditions to be in full bloom, right? It is Christmas time, and HBC, Hudson's Bay, as well as, Christmas displays around the world. I've been to Times Square and Fifth Avenue. I've seen their Christmas displays. I used to go to Toronto quite a lot when I was younger, and I used to do the Eaton Center thing. My grandmother worked at the Eaton Center, so we would go down every so often to look at the displays in the windows. And what's been happening in recent years is it's become more antiseptic. Looking at this picture, and this is the Toronto Sun, Joe Warmington reporting, store taking the Christmas out of Christmas. This is one of their Christmas windows, and it's got lots of red and white. It's got lots of bows and ribbons and glittery things and stuff, but it has absolutely no heart, right? Like, this is like looking at a commercial that is trying to be non-denominational and non-confrontational about that whole holiday season thing. We don't say the Isthmus, right? And it's frustrating because, well, we celebrate Christmas. We celebrate Christmas. We do. Here's the Toronto Sun reporting, taking the Christmas out of Christmas. It's the annual iconic Christmas windows, but without much Christmas. Inside the Hudson Bay store windows along Queen Street West, you will find candy canes, wrapped gift boxes with bows, an ornament production machine, nutcracker soldiers, snowmen, snow people, and a computer outputting the names of children on Santa's list. But what you won't find is Santa Claus himself, or his sleigh or reindeer, a Christmas tree or nativity scene with the arrival of baby Jesus on his December 25th birthday either. Quote, it's a holiday celebration as opposed to a Christmas celebration, comments Irene Chaplin, one of the many who came downtown specifically to experience the department store windows as she does every holiday season. But this year, and in recent years, it seems that stereotypical look of the Christmas she grew up with has been replaced with something new. It's kind of a manufacturing look with state-of-the-art technology combined. It's large on meeting today's online world and short on Yuletide logs and eating Christmas cake while sipping eggnog by the fire. Quote, I was brought up celebrating Christmas, said Irene. I remember this being more magical when I was younger. They're also sophisticated, computerized. I like the older ones better with Santa, the hills, the snow scenes. So here's part of the problem with this. If what you're seeing isn't magical, like if you bring your kids and what's there is more of a parody of what you remember, it's not the same. There's no magic there. If there's no heart, there's no magic. If there's no Santa, if there's no meaning behind the whole thing, then what's the point, right? Corporatism, don't forget to buy your Christmas presents, right? The commercialization of Christmas is complete with the removal of Santa Claus and any meaning behind connecting it to the holiday, to the Christian holiday that has been celebrated by Canadians for a very, very long time. It seems weird. It seems weird to kowtow to this brand new way of looking at things, and everybody better get in line or you're racist or sexist or whatever the ist is. Here's back to the article. She says, what we get are, quote, politically correct holiday celebrations. Even on the window, instead of Merry Christmas, it says HB Holiday. Happy Holidays. I mean, Merry Christmas, HBC? No, you can't do that, so it's just frustrating. I mean, watching... Part of why this is bad is because, as I was saying at the beginning, if there's no magic there, if you don't feel magic and your kids are kind of looking at it going, why did we come down here to look at a commercial? Because that's all it's become. Then what are you doing, right? And then you don't do it. And then the stores don't do it because it doesn't bring the crowds. And then the tradition is just gone, right? Just, I don't know. So it seems sad. It seems like a poor idea to hollow out the meaning behind this tradition that has been celebrated for a long time. And not forever. Traditions come and go. But it seems like trading this one of family and friends and closeness and goodwill towards man for don't forget to buy your presents. Are you on Santa's naughty list? This whole thing, right? Like usurp the whole thing. And get rid of Santa. He's a little bit problematic, right? I don't know. No, not for me. Let's keep it traditional. Moving on and talking about Christmas, job losses after October 21st have been astronomical. Every single day it looks like I've been seeing news of a different area, from forestry to the energy sector to now pulp and paper mills shutting down. And all this has to go back. And my goodness, the carbon tax is affecting farmers in a massive way. The propane to run the dryers is for wheat and other product is costing a lot more than it used to, right? So this is all impacting jobs, and it takes time for this to impact jobs because, well, I mean, a growing season only happens once a year, right? So you have to go through the thing and find out where the deficiencies are, where the problems are, and then you have to trim staff. So this is CBC News saying, breaking, Corner Brook pulp and paper trimming full-time staff shutdown coming on Christmas Eve. So this is very difficult news because a lot of it has to do with bad policy. Trump's America is roaring, and they've never seen job numbers the way that they are now. And, well, Trudeau's Canada is struggling to maintain and using tricks of the light to make sure the job numbers aren't too bad. It's incredible. In fact, yesterday was the throne speech, and the terrible jobs numbers overshadowed what was said in the throne speech. It's not good. It's not good. Here is the last story for this morning, and it's Trans Mountain. And this is going back to 2018, where Trudeau was saying, shovels in the ground as quickly as possible. But they'd been saying that for years at that point. And at that point, the sentiment was basically, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. And, well, it's actually happening. It's actually happening. But first, I want to show you this. The Vancouver Sun is reporting the Supreme Court appeal looks like British Columbia's last chance to fight the pipeline. The BC government's legal fight against the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is, with one exception, all played out. Premier John Horgan told a national media audience Tuesday, quote, "We believe that the court cases, our participation in the litigation has run its course, save and except our reference case," said Horgan. The reference case has BC asking the courts whether it has the authority to regulate increased interprovincial shipments of heavy oil and other hazardous substances via pipelines or other means. 5 judges of the BC Court of Appeal ruled unanimously against the Horgan government on constitutional grounds last spring. But BC has appealed that decision to the Supreme Court of Canada, which will hear the case early in the new year. Quote, "Those who believe that the reference case is just about Trans Mountain are missing the point," Horgan explained to reporters. "We believe that BC and other provinces have the right to put in place regulations to protect their communities and their people and their land, and we'll see what the Supreme Court has to say about that." Well, I think it's interesting that they're advocating for the provinces to have the right to put in regulations that protect themselves and their, part of that is fiscal protection, etc. So here's Don Crow, and he says if BC can regulate it, then Alberta can turn off the tap and regulate it their way. You can't have it both ways. And I thought that encapsulated this whole fight quite well, really. Like, if BC wins, they don't necessarily win because it would be a loss. So, well, they would be back at the drawing board. They would have to renegotiate because if BC can regulate, then Alberta can regulate. And aside from having to go to court to fight about that, I mean, BC is checkmating themselves. They're like, did you ever seen this move? I'll just put my king over here and move my castle to protection. And then, boom, you get checkmated because you didn't realize that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Chess analogies are ridiculous, but still, it seems like Mr. Horgan and his government are playing themselves into checkmate. And it just seems like, why? Why waste the taxpayer money? 5 judges said already you can't do that. So you think the Supreme Court's going to change it? I mean, they might. Who knows? But Trans Mountain is underway officially. There are workers in Burnaby. There are workers in Edmonton. So here's the BIV.com reporting. Trans Mountain expansion now well underway. More than 2,000 workers now employed. And this was reported November 19th. It says when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted in mid-July that the Trans Mountain expansion project is going forward and work is getting started this construction season, a typical reply was, "I'll believe it when I see it." And yeah, like that was my response too. But no, it's actually going through. Here's Trans Mountain construction set to begin in Alberta with pipe in the ground before Christmas. This is reported December 2nd, and I hadn't seen it. But here we go. After years of delays, pipeline construction is ready to begin on the Trans Mountain Expansion Project. Large diameter green pipes that will carry oil from Alberta to British Columbia coast have been stockpiled at various points along the path of the Trans Mountain Expansion Project since the summer. The Financial Post has now learned that crews are preparing to start construction work on the controversial pipeline in Alberta. Trans Mountain spokesperson Ali Hansel confirmed that there would be pipe on the ground. He says on the ground, not in the ground, with the intention of putting the pipe in the ground before Christmas. She said an event was planned for Tuesday to mark the beginning of right-of-way construction of the pipeline. Trans Mountain Expansion Project is considered critical infrastructure for landlocked oil producers in Alberta, keen to expand their customer base beyond the United States. The 590,000 barrels a day expansion would raise the pipeline capacity to 890,000 barrels per day, enabling more shipments to Asia's energy-hungry markets. Crews have also been working for months at the West Ridge Marine Terminal in Burnaby, BC, where oil from the Trans Mountain Pipeline will eventually be loaded onto ships for export. We've received more than half of the pipe needed for construction and are staging it at storage yards along the route, the company has told the Financial Post in an email in November, adding that 2,200 workers had already been hired. Our contractors have been ordering and receiving equipment, surveying and staking, and doing everything possible to be ready to start construction in the other areas as soon as possible. So, believe it when you see it. Yeah, we're seeing it. They're actually staging. They're actually putting the pipe out there. And well, it looks like most Canadians, if you believe Nano's survey, are in favor of that. CTV News is reporting 3 in 5 Canadians support construction of new pipelines. Days after shovels in the ground in Alberta on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, a new survey suggests the majority of Canadians support the construction of new pipelines. The survey, commissioned by CTV News and conducted by Nanos Research, polled 1,010 Canadians and found 42% of supported new pipelines, while another 23% somewhat supported them. Just under a third, 30%, opposed or somewhat opposed pipeline construction. 4% of respondents said they were unsure. So there you go. Interesting stuff. We actually have a pipeline under construction by a Trudeau government. And I read that he said that he was going to use the profits for climate change. So I think that's how they're justifying it. But it's interesting. The whole thing is interesting, right? Like this climate change government with a quote unquote plan. The plan won't actually reduce any emissions. Who purchased a pipeline, who make promises and break promises with, Phoenix Pay? Phoenix Pay. Justin Trudeau will personally fix Phoenix Pay. And another election later, and my friend who's on Phoenix Pay, it's not fixed. So right? Like the promises mean nothing. The promises mean zero. But here we are, years later, shovels in the ground, pipe on the ground, maybe in the ground before Christmas. So give them enough time, and enough budgetary leeway. It's okay to overspend by a couple $2 billion, 20, 30% of GDP, 40% of GDP. Who's counting, right? Go nuts. After 10 years, you might get a win. It's not a win until the actual pipeline is in use. So anyway, weird, interesting to watch. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com and have a wonderful, wonderful day.